All right, we're about to step into the world of the news stories, the papers, the headlines for the final time this week. It's 31 minutes past 7 a.m. on a feel-good Friday morning, 11th day of July, 2025. You're tuned in to Freshly Pressed on the Smooth Breakfast here on Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. Ayokunmi here. And it's going to be an amazing, action-packed bumper package, as it always is. A great time to take a look at the major stories, analysis, and your own contributions as well. So please do join us on WhatsApp and on YouTube as well. The WhatsApp number remains 0809 440 981 0809 444 0981. You can also join us on YouTube. Get your front row seat. Plant that chair right there at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. So those are the ways that you can join us this morning. Also, leave your comments in the chat box on YouTube if that is where you'll be pitching your tent this morning. All right, it's a Friday, so you know I have two fine gentlemen joining me, although virtually, but they still feel like they're here with me in the studio. That's how large they are. Yes, if you know what I mean. Of course, I have with me Joseph Obari and, of course, AB Bozimo. Good morning to you, AB. Great to have you on the show.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Joseph. And good morning to all of our wonderful listeners, wherever we may be. Let's make this the most fabulous Friday we can.
Morning, Joseph.
Yeah, thanks, Ayo. Good morning, AB. Good morning, listeners. It's good to be here again.
It's great to have you, as always. A couple of things that we're going to sink our teeth into. And just to, I'm actually going to start with some legal matters. Thankfully, I have Joseph with us this morning to just make some sense. We'll be talking about Edo State as well as what's going on in the Senate as well. But just really quickly, just as an update, we'll talk about Edo State very, very quickly, Joseph, and take a look at what has happened in terms of the Supreme Court upholding Governor Pueblo's election. We're taking this out of the Daily Post. Now, the Supreme Court has affirmed the election of Governor Monday Pueblo of Edo State. In a unanimous decision delivered on Thursday, a five-member panel led by Justice Mohammed Garba dismissed for lacking in merit the appeal filed by the People's Democratic Party PDP candidate Asue Igodalo. The appeal sought to nullify the outcome of the governorship election that was held in the state on the 21st of September, that's 2024. A number of, well, finally, we've gotten to the end, I guess, of this particular journey here. But, questions still come out of everything. And, the court agreed with both election petition tribunal and the Court of Appeal citing insufficient proof of overvoting or of irregularities as well. Now, given the PDP's limited appeal coverage and, should I say, weak evidentiary showing, does this verdict set a stronger precedent for election litigation? Or do you think it will still leave voters uncertain about electoral integrity? That's a very big thing in Nigeria at the moment.
My natural, response to this story would have been just, oh, congratulations to Governor Monday, because I don't know what you want me to say in this country. We all expected this. This Supreme Court has never, it's very, this our Supreme Court is very predictable. I don't think in my mind that you ever expected they were going to overturn the judgment of the Court of Appeal, or they are going to overturn the election of Monday Okpebolo. I didn't ever anticipate that, given the antecedents and so on. And just like you cited, this is a faulty structure. It's a systemic problem,
Mm.
right? So your electoral act that needs total overhaul. Until you do so, you will always get this result. Your work is already, you're working to an answer. That's what it is. So you will always get this result. You will always have this kind of judgment. You will always have this kind of situation where somebody does everything to grab the result, favorable result in the election, and ask you to go to court because he knows that when you go to court, you can't prove anything. The court will say you cannot prove anything. So it's a structure that is not okay. And it's designed to produce this kind of result. And we are hoping for something different. Now, our problem is, our dilemma is that it is those who benefit from this whole dysfunctionality that have the power to change it.
Mm.
Question is, are they willing to? Are they willing to? Do they want an electoral system that has integrity? Do you really think they want it? Is it legislators who want to increase their number in the National Assembly that are interested in the electoral reform? So I don't know what you want us to say. I mean, it's obvious that we will always have these results. We will always have such electoral results. We always have the same outcomes from the courts, and we will
Right.
always see the same affirmation from the Supreme Court or whatever has transferred in the lower courts, the tribunals, and so on. So for me, it's simply to tell the governor of Edo State to enjoy his tenure because he's been given the mandate by the courts. So that's really not little we can say. But just like you and I know, our electoral system needs to be overhauled if we want to be
Mm.
taken seriously that we're conducting elections and that we care for our democracy. It is long overdue, and people have been saying it. But the people who are benefiting from this dysfunctionality are not interested in what is for the good of the people and for the country. And that's the sad reality. This
Right.
country has been hijacked by some people, and they're just, having a ball, man. They're just enjoying themselves.
Mm. It's rather unfortunate, really. But hey, as you mentioned, congratulations to the governor of Edo State. I guess now he can fully roll up his sleeves and get to do the work that he was actually brought into office to, do for the good people of Edo State. That's the least that he can do for them. Give them good governance and take them to the next level where it is that they need to be. All right. So moving on to more stories here. AB, let me come right to you right now, and let's step into the Guardian and talk about updates coming out of Niger State, where the federal government on Thursday blamed Port Railway, beg your pardon, infrastructure for the recent devastating flood in Mokwa, Niger State, which led to the loss of lives, destruction of farmland, and displacement of residents as well. The managing director of the Nigeria Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agricultural Lending, that's Mirsal Aliu Abdul Hamid, stated this when he appeared before the House of Representatives Committee on Hydrological Services and the Hydroelectric Power Producing Areas Development Commission. Why do they have such lengthy names? Led by Pascal Agbodike. Now, this meeting was an interactive session with relevant agencies on measures and solutions to flood disaster management in Nigeria, with Mokwa being the focus of attention. And just to remind us what happened in Niger State, devastating scenes there, over 500 confirmed dead, over 600 people missing, many injured, about 4,000 thereabouts houses destroyed, and so on and so forth. It was just a terrible situation out there. Now, AB, looking at what has been said by Mr. Abdul Hamid, saying that railway embankment was built without drainages and collapsed under pressure. I mean, shouldn't such engineering oversights have triggered maybe earlier audits or fail-safe notice? I mean, who do we begin to blame or give or place accountability at their doorstep here?
First of all, I'll confess a personal connection with Mokwa many, many years ago when my father and mother used to drive us from Zaria to Warri. We used to stop over at Mokwa. And I remember then there were these, chalets, maybe covered with straw, and we would stay there overnight with those little lamps that had glass. It's a vision I have of Mokwa. It's very romanticized. It's very long ago. And so I have affection for Mokwa. So when those floods happened, it felt personal. Not that I know it in its modern state, but Mokwa, I have a connection with it. Now, reading this story, first of all, I was very glad to hear that some form of inspection or, assessment was done, unfortunately, after the case. unfortunately, it happened afterwards. Though the person said he had visited there as far back as 2023 and seen some signs. However, the question is, who did he report to? Were those reports taken seriously and so on? What is stated now is that in the construction of some railways, embankments were made because you see, embankments are necessary. When you're doing rail, you don't want it to go up and down too much. So you as far as possible, you want it to either be on the same level or very gradually climb or fall. You tend to pile up, material to ensure that those rail tracks stay as close to one level as possible. That's part of how you have the functional railway system. So he said that an embankment was made to install railway tracks, fine, but no drains were put that would allow water move from one side of that embankment to the other, meaning that a 4-meter high embankment, typical rooms that you're inside are 3 meters high. So a 4-meter high embankment was now keeping water on one side of it. Because of that, people on the other side where water was not there started settling. Just, human beings in the way of people, when they find a place that looks palatable or acceptable, begin to settle there. It was not officially a proper settlement, but people who had maybe had their farms displaced due to dam activities settled there. He noted that where this flood happened was actually not because of release of water from Kanji Dam or anything, because this flood happened upstream, not downstream of that. It's something to note. What I liked was that in this report, there are facts and figures that I guess we could go and verify, or at least are verifiable. And a detailed assessment has been made. He said the key thing is that insufficient drains were put in place to allow let water get past. You see, this is an engineering failure. Somebody designed that. That person should be traceable. This is a failure of oversight on the part of the ministries who oversaw that work. This is a mass failure. And as they said in the committee, lives have been lost. People must be held accountable.
Definitely.
So listen, those embankments didn't build themselves. Contractors worked on it. Contractors themselves are supposed to have competent, trained people in there. Let me tell you, when we had those terrible floods along the east-west road between Bayelsa and Delta, and Bayelsa and River State, part of it was because the roads were simply overrun by the flood. I've said on this program, and I'll say again, that the engineering nous of the current minister of works is showing, because in reconstructing those areas, they are doing three important things. One, they're not just replacing the road. I noticed that they have raised the level of the road. Two, they are using concrete for certain portions. And three, they are putting these huge drains in between the two sides of the road so that the water will no longer accumulate on one side and create the flooding. So engineering is a critical skill in building of infrastructure. It seemed to have been missing in that state. And as I say, it should be possible to identify who was responsible. Now, I'm not saying go and get them and hang them today, but let us follow through with this investigation, identify the people who were involved. They should take accountability in some way or the other. Again, I'm not saying they should be killed. It has happened, but this is almost like this program that I love, air crash investigation, where they get to the root cause of an issue and therefore avoid it ever happening again, hopefully. That is what I feel is the top message we take from this. I was very impressed by the seeming detail to
the seeming attention to detail
investigation has got. And they have summoned transport and the minister and
oh dear, it looks like maybe looks like your network is beginning to.
let's see what can be done for those who lost lives and their families in the flooding.
Most definitely. I'm glad you referenced air crash investigation. I watched that show as well, and the attention to detail, getting to the end of the investigation,
to the cause, or to put it locally, to the cocoa of the matter.
That is something we really need to imbibe here in Nigeria, going all the way, finding out what happened, and then following through. We never seem to follow through
Absolutely.
at the end.
Absolutely.
Moj from Apapa says, he's on WhatsApp, says the governor of Edo State can now roll up his sleeves and intensify his campaign for President Tinubu's second term, which he already started, instead of ensuring that his people enjoy the dividends of good governance. I mean, there have been talks about delivering 2.5 million votes there already. So I guess Moji knows what he's talking about in that regard. All right, Joseph, let's talk about matters concerning security. Well, I'm going to step into the Daily Trust. Mass trials are in the news. Yes, the federal government of Nigeria has commenced the phase 7 of the Kainji mass trials of terrorist suspects. Now, this is contained in a statement from the National Counterterrorism Center Office of the National Security Advisor on Wednesday in Abuja. The national coordinator of the NCTC, that's Major General Adamulaka, said the trials represent Nigeria's unwavering pursuit of justice and a reaffirmation of its resolve to confront terrorism through lawful and transparent means as well. Interesting developments here. I mean, I read through the story. It's, this phase is also part of the effort to bolster Nigeria's adherence to judicial standards and improving standing with the Financial Action Task Force. That's the FATF. Now, Joseph, I mean, to the best of your knowledge, how effective have the prior phases of these mass trials been in delivering justice and also deterring terrorism? Are convictions high? Are these trials seemed as fair? Are we just doing this because we want to get off the, or should I say, to get off the FATF gray list? Is that the case?
Yeah, Ayo, when you tell me that phase 7 of mass trials are started, I'm asking myself, when did this 1 to 6 happen, and what was the outcome? I mean, because if you're telling me about phase 7, it means that was 1 to 6 happened. And we know there was a time, a list as long as 400 names was bandied around as those who are involved in terrorism. And silently, we don't know what's going on. Nobody knows. In a country that is plagued with terrible security breaches across the nation. In fact, it took UAE to reveal to us that some people who are linked with
Sponsoring.
financing terrorism
Yeah.
were arrested in that country. And in fact, when the story broke, Nigerian officials were clamoring for them to be released, and they have not done anything wrong. And we've been told that the terrorist network is deep into our system, our government, and so on. So you will expect that a government that is serious, that actually wants to tackle this problem, will be very, very fierce and thorough about, and even in terms of publicity of what's going on, will inform Nigerians with all sense of seriousness as to who are those behind these terrible experiences that we're going through as a country. But when things are politicized, when you bring sectional interest into these matters, when you say, oh, they are my people, they are this, and then you're kid gloving over these things, then of course, that's why we never get anywhere. And just like you're saying, maybe some of these things are for sure, just to be sure, tell the international community that you're doing something, but your heart is not really in it. So if terrorists, as those or sponsors of terrorism, are given a slap on the wrist and let to go, what do you think will happen? Of course, they will just go back. Others will be, it is impunity that has always been the major problem in Nigeria. People get away with anything, with anything. Yeah, if you have the right connections, you can get away with anything.
Hmm.
Now, meanwhile, to my own illiterate knowledge of security, I know terror cells are being planted amongst the populace of this country, all over. People are moving, terrorists organized. And that's why you just hear flashes here, flashes there, flashes there.
What does that say about the intelligence structure then?
Yeah, so it questions the intelligence structure of our security network. That's what's going on. I remember years back when you had 17 buses loaded with human beings entering into Port Harcourt, intercepted. And they were quizzed by security operatives who was like, who are you? And there was an uproar. A particular section of the country rose up and said, oh, these are artisans. They're only coming to work in Port Harcourt, they're in River State, they're only looking for employment. Now, the critical question you ask yourself, who organized for 17 vehicles for those artisans, for laborers to work? How was it organized?
That's a lot of vehicles.
Yeah, 17. Then of course another convoy entered into Owerri, was also intercepted by the military. And during profiling, they found some Boko Haram members there, all those who were on terror lists. That is how a little knowledge of somehow terrorism works. That's how cells are created. They are planted, they are there, they are just doing work like normal people, and then one day when they are ignited, they just go told what to do and they do. That's for me as an illiterate security person. That's knowledge of security. I have blank knowledge from what I've read, from what I've seen, from movies and all that. You understand that this is how this operates. But in our own case, it's not so. We just in fact, even when you arrest, they say, oh no, leave them, or they are just people, they are working, they are hunters, or they are just moving around. So there is terrible failure of intelligence. And then of course it goes to trial. You go to trial. If you go to trial and you have not prepared your case well, and you don't have the evidence, you don't have that's what intelligence is. You gather all the facts and so on, and then you can go to trial and so be able to convict people. You have to be able to convict people. How many persons have been held responsible for the killings that have been going on in the country? How many? Have you heard that they say, oh, this person being sentenced to life imprisonment or to death or whatever for engaging in terrorism? You say terrorism is a high crime, serious felony. So we have whatever happened from phase 1 to 6, we don't know. But phase 7, let us all keep our eyes on it and see what will come out of it, if it's not a circus.
If it's not a circus, and something that we really should not be treating with kid gloves at all, at all, at all. But hey, here we are at the moment. Jerry says, good morning, Ayo and Joseph. Terrorists used to be a thing we hear about in the Far East, but to oust GEJ, current party in government at the federal level, brought these guys to help them carry out the nefarious acts. Do you have evidence of that, Jerry? If you have evidence, please provide that for me. Let me take a look and see with my own two eyes. All right. So maybe let's talk about matters concerning power. Now, this is going to be a two-part, if I can put it that way. So I hope time will allow us to get through the entire thing. First of all, we'll talk about faulty meters and billing errors. And we'll start and this is coming from the Punch, where electricity distribution companies received over 254,404 customer complaints in the first quarter of 2025, largely driven by grievances over faulty metering, erratic service, and inaccurate billing, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has said. Now, these complaints were lodged between January and March 2025, marking a 7.72% drop from the 275,681 complaints received in the previous quarters. Now, the top three issues reported by customers were: number one, metering at 42.84%, billing 12.27%, and service interruption at 7.66%, accumulatively accounting for about 62% of all the complaints that were recorded. Now, looking at these numbers, AB, what does this say about the reliability of Nigeria's power distribution infrastructure? And where should the regulatory authorities begin to prioritize the very much needed reforms?
On this face of it, when you say a 7.72% drop, you might say that is progress in the right direction, because at least that number, a drop in complaints, could be a sign that people are getting better service, or You could say they have complained and they are tired of complaining and they're no longer trying. So it really depends. Now we understand that billing has metering has been one of the issues. Many people have applied for meters, and it baffles me why something like a meter is not almost automatically given, because a meter is not like a phone that I can take and move away. A meter is going to be
Mm.
connected to a building, a location that's fixed. And so once you put a meter, if you are really interested in regulating and getting a true reading of my consumption, you put a meter and you can amortize the cost of that meter over 6,
Are you there, Amy?
12, or
Okay.
24 months or more. It simply means that every time I put 10,000.
Mm. Okay, looks like the network is going in and out where where AB is concerned. It's usually at the tail
naira into
end.
the meter
Okay,
based
he's
on
back.
whatever we're
Hmm.
first of them.
It's always at the tail end that these issues tend to creep in here. But you know what, Joseph, while we wait for AB to actually come back fully, I know that these issues of power, we're talking about this before we actually got on the show, and you were alluding to issues concerning metering. So I want to assume that maybe your one of your complaints were among the 254,000 of those
Yeah.
complaints.
But my complaint is, at least my complaint is one of them. In Abuja here, I've had to protest because I found very funny things happening on my meter. It's a new meter, a new house, and so on. There was a building before, it was brought down. The meter that was here was stolen and or whatever. Now, it's funny things happen when it comes to power supply. It's very, very strange. If you talk to individuals, you hear very sad and incredible stories. And mine was simply so peculiar. So now I bought a new meter, and then all of a sudden, while they were still putting finishes to the house was fully on solar. It was running on solar, and the people passed by and saw electricity and concluded that we're stealing electricity. And then
Hmm.
they approached, confronted my project engineer. The lady was like, "Sorry, we are on solar. So what are you talking about?" When eventually my meter was activated, I didn't know that they had put a charge of over 300,000 naira on my account.
For what?
That I was using electricity illegally, and I didn't know. So every time I buy credit, I didn't know that half of it was taken to cover that cost. So it so happened that I find I was like baffled that soon after I load my meter, I have to buy credit again, despite that it is also augmented by solar. So I was spending a lot of money. So it was only in the last month that one of the agents told me, "Why don't you find out what's going on, the status of your meter?" I sent somebody there and they told me that I was there was charge on my account, and I paid that money right up to about 40,000 naira left
Wow.
at that point. Yeah. So 40,000 naira left to pay. So and for me to clear that, I need to buy a credit worth for 80,000 so that they can take the 40,000. So I had written a letter protesting all of this, and it was the investigation that led to this. But it means I have been defrauded over that
Hmm.
period of time. And with impunity, they just didn't care. Somebody wrote a report and said this house was used.
Did they do
How?
any investigation to come to that conclusion?
Nothing. There was no evidence, nothing. So and of course, sometimes my estate right now, our meter got blown. This section of our estate meter got blown for more over 7 weeks now. There's been no power from public, so we're running. Those of us who can run them solar almost exclusively off the grid. Now they are saying that we should buy meter. We should buy a transformer. That's AEDC. He's saying the consumer, should buy the transformer. That if we wait for them to buy the transformer, it may take eternity. They may not know, they don't know how they are going to get, they don't have. So that's the kind of thing your practical experience of my personal experience. And people who don't have solar are in penury because they've been buying diesel, buying petrols, buying whatever and they are now desperate for any solution. How do you run a system like this? These are private companies extorting people. Okay, let it be continue with what he was
Yeah,
saying.
AB, just help us to bring this home because time is actually fast spent. We understand network issues, but
Very,
glad to
very
have you back.
quickly. I mean, to combine the two stories. Sorry about that.
Oh my goodness, this is just so bad.
Let me just take the messages because of time. We've crept over the threshold, as it were. Joseph Menier in Silver State says, "Why is the Minister of
So
Power and
the summary is
NERC?"
that people may not be complaining anymore. At the end of the day, NERC is trying to demonstrate that they are working. Go on, ask the question. You
No,
said,
I was going to read the message because you had frozen once again. So I was going to read the message, but you were just
oh
summarizing.
wow. Please go ahead. Okay.
All right.
Basically, NERC is trying to show that they're busy. What is the result? When these complaints come, how are they being resolved? That's really the measure. And then for the second story, the
Okay,
is really not going to happen because people have heard that that's not happening. And he's just speaking out of turn. The most important part of this story is that the minister is planning to run for governorship next time in his state. So that's really the whole crux of this story, is that he's been talking so like it's visible, and it appears that his whole shtick is to make sure he's positioning himself to be governor of his state, Ogun State, next time. That's all.
All right, let me take the messages. As I was reading from Joseph Menier, he says, "Why is the Minister of Power and NRC why do they keep on pampering the discos with periodical tariff hikes despite poor services? The disco don't want to meter consumers but prefer estimated billing. Now they're claiming they are paying subsidies for fraudulent companies which are making millions off of the consumers." Okay, this is from Emeka Nikeja. Mass trial of terrorists are funny. Why can't they pardon these people as repentant terrorists also? Who do you try and who do you pardon? That's a very good question. I mean, what's the criteria for determining who to pardon and who to actually try? Jay Oloniluwa in Magodo GRA Sherry says the long process of post-election litigations is not in the interest of our democracy. The Electoral Act needs urgent amendments to remove the litigations from our regular courts. Like in some countries, a constitutional court that will mediate election disputes within 2 weeks of the election will be ideal. God help us all. This is from William. William says, EKDC has been defrauding us. My small business has been running off grid for 4 months because EKDC has refused to fix or replace our faulty transformer. Yet they sent in a bill. Shameful. I guess they conjured that bill out of nothing like they were in the Harry Potter universe because I don't understand how that could have happened. This one is from, let me see, is there a name attached to it? Can't see any, but the message says, no defined punishment for terrorism. They get pardoned, but armed robbery is a death sentence. Please make it make sense, says. We're trying our best. We're really trying. It's difficult for us as well. All right, another one here. This one says, good morning, gents. You are highly welcome to the land of anyhowness and and Emma Binu, that's to say, sorry. We're a very unserious country, so I wouldn't hold my breath, but I remain demure and ever mindful. Please remain demure always. Tony Marine Beach says, if at the time of President Jonathan, the sympathizers of terrorists already infiltrated government, these same persons must have almost taken over the government at this time. Those are the real sponsors of terror, and I can only take government serious the day we begin to hear about arrests of some big names. Meanwhile, they can continue to play politics, cutting the tree branches in pretext of trying to eliminate the actual tree. All right, we need to wrap it up here and call it a morning for the final time on Freshly Pressed this week. Thank you so very much for all the messages, and very big thank you to you, Joseph and AB, for making it an amazing Friday morning.
Always so.
AB.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ayo. I have suffered a lot from network issues today. I apologize if I'm not being heard, but thank you all for joining us on the show. Have a blessed, wonderful weekend ahead.
All right, Joseph, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Ayo. Abi, sorry for all the wahala. Maybe you need to settle with your ancestors. so that they will let you talk. Anyway, so guys, that's on a serious note, please. I want to say thank you to all the listeners for ever being here and contributing very brilliantly to the show. Ayo, great job. Thanks so much, Ibi. Have a wonderful weekend.
All right. Enjoy your weekend, gentlemen, and Lagos. Keep it tuned to the Smooth Breakfast. The show goes on 8:15. We'll take a walk
Enjoy
into the
your
world of
weekend.
sport and the locker room.